Great. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Your Success Team session, Know Your Numbers. So this is probably our most popular workshop. There's so many of us that got told at a certain point, somewhere along our schooling journey, that we were no good at numbers. And that pesky little gremlin got lodged in our brain. And how it manifests when we're in business is we do things like we don't reconcile our zero, we don't check the bank balance, or we just do everything we possibly can to look after everything else in our business other than our financials. And what we're big believers in is that numbers are actually, that they are your ticket to a sustainable business. That is your ticket to freedom and success. So hopefully you get a lot from this session. Little bit of an outline. How Your Success Team came to be is we're all about giving you multiple eyes on your business, with diversity of thought to help everything be better. So Robin's strengths are totally different to mine. You'll see that play out in how we run the session. We're running these workshops as these are this is the second of 4 workshops this spring, designed to give you some foundational concepts. Now, these are being run so that you can come and grab what you want. The resources that we've created are really, really helpful. But obviously there's a whole lot more that we can offer. So this is just to help you get a taster for how we roll and then make that decision if you would like to keep working with us further. So there'll be a little bit of information just on the wrap up around that, just so we get that, what's the sales part of this free workshop off the table. So now I will kick into actually being all about know your numbers, and we'll do a little bit of back and forth. As I said, it means you can see how Robin rolls versus how I roll. Sarita, while you're live, if you want to ask us any questions, just shout out. And for anyone on replay, just ping through any questions when you're working through it. So let's get into it. Has that come through?
It has.
Perfect. All
yes,
right.
thank you.
So there we go. Robin, why are we going to talk about finances?
Why are we going to talk about finances? Well, finances, as Alana said, is really the key to the business. And yet it is something that kind of people don't think about it. They have a great idea. They think a lot about how they're going to sell that idea, where they're going to find their customers. They spend a lot of time working out their USP, their vision, hopefully, because that is a great place to start. But sometimes they don't really spend a lot of time thinking whether this is actually going to be a financially viable business. Or they may have been in business for a couple of years. Everything seems to be going well, but they're not making any money. And so it's not that they're not working hard on their business. It's more that they're just not keeping an eye on what those numbers are saying, because the numbers are the kind of unglamorous bit, or people feel that they're not in it for the money. So why should I be looking at the figures? Whereas it is important, because if you don't have a sustainable business, you don't have a business and you're eventually going to run out. Or as we talk about, you've got an very expensive hobby. So what we're going to go through in this workshop, and it is going to be brief, and we can't cover everything that's involved with finances in an hour, unfortunately, is we are going to look at your money mindset, because that has got so much to do with how you deal with your finances. And as you'll become aware, and it is why some people just ignore it. It's part of their money mindset. And then we're going to look at some of the basics of finance for your business. So this is the kind of thing that maybe your accountant has talked about, or maybe you've heard other people talking about, but you kind of just don't really get it yourself. So we're just going to bring that right back down to simplicity, because actually there's only so much about the finance of your business that you need to know. A lot of it is irrelevant. And then we're going to have a look at cash flow forecasting. For this session, once again, because we haven't got a lot of time, we're going to talk about revenue forecasting rather than the full cash flow forecast.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's get into it with a little bit of just a high level overview around money mindset. And there are people who build their whole businesses around money mindset. It's a whole field and industry and really interesting rabbit hole to go down in and of itself. But just to touch on, because it's really important to have a glimmer of awareness before you start grappling into this stuff yourself. So we all have a natural tendency on a money mindset spectrum, and that varies from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And for many of us, if we have grown up in households that were impacted by parents, grandparents who were impacted by the impacts of the Depression off the back of the Second World War, this stuff's big for us. This stuff's really big for us. So this one you can largely blame your parents for, and now you get to work on fixing. So that's your high level message. And then how this plays out, your scarcity and your abundance, is you've just got to start to become aware of what does that voice in your head say about things when it relates to money. So are you hearing things like, oh, I'll never have enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't want any help because I'm a bit scared, like there's that shame factor. I'm always going to be poor, or that doesn't happen for people like me. I'm always screwing up my budget. So that means you're sort of sat at that scarcity end of the mind of the spectrum. And then if you're in more at the abundance, it's all the opposites. So it's I have enough, I can learn, good things are happening. I find the help that I need when I need it, with a bit of planning and, the right actions, then I can get where I want. I can be the hero of my journey. And you'll sit somewhere on that, and there's some skill around it. And so that's really it for now. Maybe just have a little bit of a reflection as we step through this to see what comes up for you. And then what we're actually going to do is take you through a little bit of a quiz just now to just bring how some of that might be showing up for you day to day in business, because it impacts us sometimes more than we know. So if I click into here, so what I'm going to do is just launch this poll. Now this is going to be interesting because there's not so many of us live, but here are your questions to run through. So there we go.
Well, I don't have a business account, but I'm going to go with the current account I do have, just for argument's sake.
Perfect. Yes, that's totally okay, Sarita. And so it should be giving you the option in there to actually answer them within the Zoom. Is it giving you that?
It is indeed.
Awesome. So I don't know if this poll shows up for those on the replay. So I'll just run through the questions that we're asking. So that's the questions around, I check my business is financially on track, and those range from A through D. I check how much it costs to run my business, e.g. rent, cost of materials, and that's those A through D. I calculate my gross profit margin to see if I earn enough to cover costs and make money, and that's your A through D. And then the last question is, my business planning includes key numbers, e.g. revenue and net profit, the bottom line. And obviously there's another couple of questions there that you'll get when we send out the PDFs from that. These just sort of help you take stock around where you naturally sit around your money mindset.
So I've answered the other ones in context to how I currently manage money. The last one's probably the only one I can't really answer in context of that, because it's around revenue and net profit. So I was going to say I don't do business planning, but that's the context.
That's you probably do business planning, I'm going to guess, off the back of this one. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you've naturally got that personality that you're going to check against forecasting regularly. So you just want to carry that into your business. Checking how much it costs to run once or twice a year. We're going to go into that a little bit more. Calculate gross profit margin. That's awesome that you're doing that. And no, you don't do business planning. And same thing off the back of this, I'm picking you're going to want to. So hopefully this is really beneficial for you. And really on track, right, Robin, with what we see with most people when we run this, because we run this workshop quite often and we have a lot of people come through, and those are really common answers. So yeah, Sarita, for you live and anyone on the replay, like have no shame in your answers. It just is what it is. So Right.
Yeah.
So now we've done that. Anything, Robin, you want to cover on that?
Just to say that, yeah, these results are absolutely in line with what we tend to get. And some of it is that money mindset being reflected. And what is interesting is that sometimes you find that people with more of a scarcity mindset are actually better money managers when it comes to business, because they're kind of really wanting to make sure how things are going all the time because they're scared of running out. So some degree of scarcity actually works quite well. If you looked at Alana and myself, for example, we've got quite different money mindsets. Mine's more of a scarcity mindset, being brought up in a big family, never had enough money, etc. Something I'm working on. Whereas Alana definitely has more of an abundance mindset, just goes more with her Tigger personality compared with my Eeyore personality. But me being slightly on the scarcity side probably makes me more interested in the numbers in business, because actually watching your numbers gives a degree of safety, I think, in your business.
Yeah. And on the flip side, you know, speaking to different personalities, that's why I find numbers really fascinating, is because it's so inspiring and exciting. So it's yeah. Right, let's get into, enough about us. Let's get into back to Robin in the studio.
Right. So really a good place to start is understanding some of the terms that are used all the time in business. And maybe you hear them from your accountant, or you'll hear other people talking about it. One of the places that is going to want to know some of these key terms or key performance indicators from your business is banks. Like if you are looking at going to banks with help with financing, when you are making up your business plan, which you should do as you start out your business, there are some of these things that you are going to talk to. So the first one is revenue or sales. Now those words are used interchangeably, so that's why I've put them here. So revenue or sales, sometimes called income. So that's all the money coming into your business from sales to your customers. So that's your revenue or sales. When we talk about cash flow, what we're talking about is that that's the money coming into your business and the money going out of your business. And we talk about that as cash flow, is it's actually the money as it hits your account. It is not money you have invoiced out. It is not money you hope to get. It is actually the money coming into your business and the money coming out, as in the bills that you pay.
And that's the one that's literally the lifeblood of your business.
It is the lifeblood of your business.
It's the one that you feel on a day-to-day basis, week to week. It's the one that when we get this right with our clients, this is the one that gives the greatest ease.
Yes.
More so than any other business lever. Cash flow is lifeblood.
Yes. And not only is it the lifeblood, but it is, well, because it's the lifeblood, it can often be, if you get cash flow out of kilter, it can be the death of your business as well. Because once you get out of kilter, it's really hard to get back up again. So we talk about budgets or forecasts. Now, budget's a word that is normally used in the corporate world, and that is you are given an amount of money you are allowed to spend, and you are given an amount of money you should be earning for that business. So that's kind of a budget, and it is quite restrictive. And it is, to me, not aspirational. A forecast is aspirational, because as a forecast, it's what we're wanting to happen. It's what we're putting out there as our goal to achieve. And that's what a forecast is, rather than a budget. We often talk about a profit and loss statement. So your profit and loss statement is all the money coming in and out that is related to your business. So a profit and loss statement doesn't include things like tax, and it doesn't include things like the business owner's drawings, etc. So it really just gives you a feel for how you're going with money coming in and money going out. Now, gross margin. So that's the money that's left after you take away what it costs you to produce that goods or service. So that is, you get the money coming in, you have a sale, you sell your widget for $100, but it costs you $50 to actually produce it. So your gross margin is that $50. And it can either be talked about in a dollar amount or a percentage amount. Working out percentages is a little bit harder. So those of us that are mathematically challenged, there's nothing like a really good Excel spreadsheet to actually tell you what your profit margin is, rather than working out what you're dividing by what.
And this is also where for anyone that hasn't grabbed the pricing strategy workshop, let us know if you want that, because there's some tools in there to help you from a pricing perspective get clarity on that, because this is the hard thing about business, is nothing's linear. Like, they're all pals and there's all this big mesh. So skip on over to pricing strategy to grab some thinking about that.
Cool. And net margin, similar to gross margin, except that gross margin is talking about the cost of producing the product, whereas your net margin is what is left over after all the running costs of your business. So that includes your rent, your power, might be your salary. It will include the insurance. It's what is left once everything is taken out, the costs that you have in your business. And what is left over, that is your profit. So once all of the costs come out of your sales, what you are left with is your profit. And that is, profit is often seen as, it's a bit of a dirty word, you know, it just sounds a little bit greedy and mean. Actually, the profit in your business is what you need to grow your business. The profit in your business is what you need to sustain your business life, because the profit of the business is, it is more than just what you can use to then buy shoes. But, you know, if shoes are important to you, it is really good that you have the profit so you can buy the shoes. So the profit to me is the good bit, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right.
So cash flow forecasting, what is it and why should we do it? So in its most simplistic terms, your cash flow forecasting is you predicting what is going to happen as far as the money coming into your business and the money coming out of your business. So once, it's like anything, once you have it written down, once you have it clear in your mind what money you need to have coming in and what money will be going out, you can then work out what you have to do to achieve that. So it's kind of a driver of activity, because if you don't actually have a figure in mind that you want as far as sales goes, you don't know what you need to do. So you're kind of in this flurry of, you know, do I need to put 5 hours work into it, or I need to put 2 hours work into it? You may not know exactly how many customers you need to achieve that revenue goal that you have. So having a cash flow forecast helps you to stay on track with reaching those goals. The other thing a cash flow forecast does, because you're forecasting out into the future and you're trying to work out what's happening, at the same time, you will be looking at what actually does happen. And so if you start to see that what you believed would happen, or what you even, let's say, needed to happen for your business to be sustainable, it's not happening, and you're checking that every month, it actually enables you to act really quickly to change things if you're heading off track. And yet if you're mucking around in the dark and you're fumbling around and you have no idea what's going on, you can be repeating those same behaviors or not achieving the results, and you're going to have no idea it's happening until it's too late. The other good thing with cash flow forecasting, it is absolutely vital if you're starting a business to actually have a forecast of what is likely to happen as far as revenue goes. And it also allows you to check out new ideas or opportunities. So if a great new shiny thing comes along and you think, that's it, that's my key to success, what I would recommend you do is put the numbers through a cash flow forecasting tool and to actually see if that dream or that thing or that shiny object is actually going to be profitable for the business. So before I look at starting any business, dealing with a startup, that is the first thing I will do is, hey, let's have a look at what the figures might do. I think you've got a wonderful idea, and I believe your customers are out there, but let's actually just see what is the money coming into your business and what is the money coming out. I've already really covered that. Allows you to take action on the things you need to do to reach your forecast. And I've got the experience, the magical, unexplainable power forecasting has to smash your goals. And that sounds very ethereal and very wishful and all the rest of it. But truly, I have seen the magic of this at work with so many businesses, in that early on in working with a business, we do a cash flow forecast. We will change nothing else. We won't particularly do any work around customers or sales or anything. But the minute they see a figure in front of them that they need to achieve, damn it, they achieve it. Because we're all little competitive beasts when it all comes down to it. We all may not have been great at sport, but we love playing games. And it almost becomes a game where this figure is in front of me and I'm going to achieve it. And similarly, if you put a figure in front of somebody and say you are not to spend more than that, that kind of works as well, where they suddenly take a little bit more notice of the money that's coming out of their business. You know, how much they're spending on subscription models, or, you know, subscriptions for things that they don't even use. You know, can I actually...
It just gives you that clarity. It takes the thing that you was over there, and this is why this is so empowering, because we kind of go, oh, it's just over there. But then when you actually look at it, this is what happened. So shall we jump into the magic then and give a little walkthrough of the tool that everyone's going to have? I will let you share yours now, Robin. So off the back of this, Loretta, we'll send you through, and anyone on the replay, you'll get a template, an Excel template that Robin has created, and this is a light version of what we use in our programs. So we have a really, really deep version that includes your other things. So if you like this, come and have a chat, and you know, we can talk about how you can go get the Big Bertha.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. And as Alana alluded to, this is a cut down version because we just don't have time to cover all that is needed for your cash flow forecasting. So what I've done is I kind of left out the more boring part, which is the expenses. But it might be boring, but it is actually really important. But this tool, it can actually be used as a goal setting or a just purely aspirational, because all we're looking at is the money that's coming into your business. So there is 3 tabs at the bottom. The first tab does for those that receive the cash flow forecast. It gives you some idea of actually how to fill out this tool. But it is completely locked up, so there isn't much you can do wrong. So what I say in that is just muck around with it. You know, just feel free to stick numbers in and see what happens. But there are 2 ways to forecast your revenue coming into your business. And if you're really just starting out and you're not that clear on the products you'll be selling, the number of widgets you'll be selling and what the prices of them are, then you can just go, in September, I want to achieve $20,000 worth of sales. And I'm going to do that for a while, but then I'm really looking at, in March, I'm going to go up to 40,000. I'm going to double it. I'm going to put in place what I've learned. I'm going to reap the rewards of some of my groundwork, and I'm going to go up to $40,000. So that in itself, quite simply, is just the way some people will want to do their revenue forecast. They're going to give themselves a goal each month and you work towards it. Now, there is an adjustment line. So at the end of September, I actually found that I only got $15,000 worth of revenue. So I missed that a little bit. So I was 5,000 down there. Oh, that's a bit of a bummer. And then I get into November, I look back in October, I was wanting to do 20,000 and man, I did 25,000. And look,
you need to adjust it by 5. You're getting too optimistic there. You just totally.
Okay.
Don't do that, kids. Don't do that one. Don't do that one. You'll get yourself all excited and then the bank will laugh at you.
There we go. There we go. I actually ended up doing 5,000. So this adjustment line you're doing after the fact. So we'll pretend that we haven't done it yet.
So this is where back to those earlier questions about the power of doing this regularly. So Sarita, you can see if you start as you mean to continue, it then becomes a really good habit. And it means that you can really quickly see the financial implications and outcomes of the other decisions that you're making in your business with your other efforts.
Cool. So the other way this can work is if you're wanting to do it per product or per service. So if we use business coaching for an example, so that's a service. There might be workshops. I've got workshops and per person that's $100. But as well as doing our workshops, and this is probably more for Sarita, we have an online app, and per user, that is costing them $50 per month. Okay, so then I put up here, go up to line 19 and say, okay, so in September, I'm going to run just one workshop and I hope to get 10 people. And I'm going to repeat that in October and November. And then I'm actually not going to have anybody in December at all. And I'm going to come back in February and I'm going to do 2 workshops, therefore have 20 people, you see how it works. And that just all adds into it.
So this is just to provide some context. This is really helpful when you have seasonal fluctuations to your business. So for example, Sarita, I know the space that you're in, you may have some kind of like, I don't know, so I know we had a really brief chat about some of them, but let's say if you're going to create that wellness sort of based app, you're going to have a flurry in the new year because New Year's resolutions. You're going to have a flurry in spring because spring energy. So it just means you can factor those seasonal impacts into your business in a way that any kind of accountancy based forecasting isn't going to give you when you're in startup mode, because it's got no historical insight. Got no algorithms to feed. And even then, when you're 3 or 5 years into business, those algorithms are not a human. You can't say to them, well, you know, it's going to be rainy, so I'm not going to sell stuff type thing. Just to fill the silence while Robin was filling in the magical numbers.
So you're predicting with an app, for example, something on a monthly subscription, the number of users you are going to have from month to month. So the number of people that are going to be paying you that $50. And as you say, Alana, flurry of activity early on in the year, and then they drop off again as the winter months come on. But then if you've got somebody on paying monthly for a yearly subscription, that's all going to be different because you know that you're going to actually have that income over that time. So very, very simple. Now you can see that I've left up there this top row 8 of sales. What some people do is, because it's really hard to predict how much you're going to sell of something any given time, some people do, I want to make a base amount of money of, in this case, we've got the $20,000 there for each month. But on top of that, there are these things that I am actually going to be selling. So you can either use them separately. So I could take this line out and go, no, I'm only going to work it out on the number of units I am selling of the product or service. So that basically makes up your revenue forecasting. And I can see with X amount of work that by the end of the year, I am going to have a total revenue of 32,000. So you can also see that this is where the expenses are missing, because it's not telling you how much profit you're going to make, but at least it's telling you how much revenue you're going to earn or how much income you're going to have into your business. And with somebody with sort of fairly low or fixed costs, it does in a roundabout way give you some idea of what your profit is going to be. But what we have here,
your viability, right?
yeah, absolutely. And whether it's going to work, just whether it's going to work. And that's the big one that a lot of businesses look at. When they do the figures, they go, well, shivers, that's not going to work. I need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, either about my pricing, which is a big driver of revenue. So like if I start charging $200 for my workshops, I can immediately see that it makes a heck of a lot of difference to the amount of revenue. And then with my app, for example, I whip that up and suddenly I'm around the $100,000 of revenue in the year. And once you've kind of got the set up, it's a great place to start playing with your numbers to see what you actually need to be charging to make the revenue you want. So you can either go forwards, I'm going to charge this is the revenue I'll get, or you go, this is the revenue I want. What do I need to charge to get that? And just as a bit of an additional bonus extra, there is a tab here that shows your revenue goals. So it transposes what we hoped for revenue for each month. And there's a place there where you can actually write in what you are going to do. So this is where you get your actions following aspiration. What am I going to do so as to achieve that? And as you go through and put in your actual, so I didn't achieve that in September. So what am I going to do in December to make sure that I will achieve the goals going further forward? And just briefly on this, it gives you the chance to go year on year, how much better am I going to do? Am I going to add 20% to my revenue? Am I going to, and that is really aspirational too, because you can see with a small increase, it may not seem
not much to grow your business in startup mode by a fifth, like by 20%, another fifth year on year for your first few years is not hard. In fact, arguably it's easier, shorter, and then you hit that plateau, And
you can change that figure, because to be perfectly honest, a lot of business in startup modes, it's not unusual to have a 50% increase year on year for that first couple of years, especially on your revenue. You also have a corresponding increase in your expenses as well, but at the moment we're just talking about revenue. Okay, so hopefully that gives just a bit of insight into that cash flow forecasting tool and how cool it is.
So cool. Have you got, given you've got the benefit of us live, have you got any questions, Sarita, about that?
Sorry, I was just muted. No, that looks really cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. All right.
So now I think
you're going to pass back to me.
I'm going to pass back to you, and we're going to talk about the
improving cash flow.
Just some quick hints and tips about managing and improving your cash flow. So the first thing to do to improve your cash flow, and this almost just seems too basic to be needing to be here, but it's an important thing to remember. If your cash flow is just not working, go back to your business model. go back to the way your business is operating, and you may need to make some changes on that. And as we alluded to, pricing is normally the easiest way to drive that. But it also may be that you, when you set out on your business dream, you were going to have a physical store, for example. Well, that just may not be possible when you look at your cash flow, and maybe it's e-commerce that you may be needing to look at. So doing this cash flow can actually help with those sort of decisions, because what I would do is I'd do a forecast for if I set up a physical store, and I'd also do a forecast for e-commerce and see what works best, really.
And that's probably a good point that we perhaps didn't allude to in the forecasting. What can be really helpful when you're in planning mode is to do, we find it really helpful with customers we're working with, is to do three scenarios. So you do a worst case, like I'm going to listen to all the recession news, it's all going to be awful, inflation's going to go up, this is like my bare minimum. And then this is actually realistically, if I was going at the pace I want to go, this is what I think. And then this is, if I really stretched myself and I was really going, woo, this is what I would like. And those three just help you see the range of what's possible. And yeah, it can be very helpful from a mentality perspective to keep you feeling motivated.
Especially if you've got a scarcity mindset. If you've got a scarcity mindset, you really do need to do the what is the worst? What is the worst that can happen? Everything absolutely turns to shit. Nobody wants my product. What is the worst that can happen? If you've got one of those and see that you can still survive it, your confidence goes up incredibly. And just seeing that, you know, that was the worst case scenario, but I've smashed it. So that's yeah, part of that aspirational. So other ways to manage and improve your cash flow, it is keeping track of your finances. So using a separate bank account for all your work and income expenses to track your spending. Now that just once again seems really obvious, but there are a lot of people out there, especially when they first start out in business, that are running it from their personal account. And that is just so very hard to keep track of things. It's messy as. So as soon as possible, start up a bank account for your business. Have some understanding of your trends if you are going to be a seasonal business, and looking at whether you are making enough during the good times to get you through the bad times, or how you're going to manage the bad times when you don't have as much revenue coming in, or what happens when you do a large contract and then that contract runs out. So just a bit of pre-planning and pre-thinking and preparation, really. What it comes down to.
Especially like, you know, so really you're in big time startup mode. So I'm going to make some presumptions that there's going to be lots of outlay and then not necessarily seeing the revenue. So just having that view will mean that you're not going to feel quite so despondent in it going out before it comes back in, because you can see it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely in the beginning, and then not really much overhead or fixed cost afterwards. So yeah, it's all like a big chunk in the beginning.
Yes, yeah, and that's what makes this forecasting so powerful for you, right? Because this is really the make or break viability, and it helps you make all your decisions around your pricing strategy for your business model, which is just critical for you to go, yes, now I'm going to do it. Now it's worth. Now I know it's worth this investment.
Yeah. Yep.
And it doesn't actually have to be a full business account. It can just be an account under your personal account, but a separate account so that you know how much the business owes you, for example. And when I do a full cash flow forecast, I do have a separate place there for this is how much personal money that I've put into the business. So that gets a line. And then I will forecast out when I'm going to pay that money back. And that's really exciting. And once again, for somebody with a scarcity mindset, I love to see that, yes, you know, at some point in time, the money that I may have used from the family, really, I'm going to be able to pay it back, and that's when I will be able to do it. So another way to keep track of your finances is make sure you know what regular payments you've got coming out, and paying some of those larger bills like insurance and things monthly rather than annually is also a good way to do it.
Especially bills like accountancy bills as well, right? Because that can sometimes be a big chunk, because they tend to sit pretty stagnant. It's not quite the right word, but they're pretty flat, and then they get really big in terms of business size. Like there's like a baseline for accountancy, and regardless of your complexity of your business, it's that until you're sort of, you know, quite a few layers of complexity in, that it skips to the next level. So when you're in startup mode, those bills can be a bit of a
absolutely. Some other things to keep in mind is that keeping on top of debtors, or keeping on top of those people that owe you money. So you've done the work, you need to be paid for the work that you do. So don't let that just drag because you're too reserved, or you don't want to ask, or you feel bad. Put all that aside. You've done the work. People need to pay. So just make sure you're following up on people that owe you money. Invoice as soon as you do the work. I don't know how many businesses out there that are struggling, and then I'll go, well, what about your invoicing? It is so ad hoc. Invoices get forgotten, and this is often in the tradies, etc., that are really good at what they do. Some of that admin stuff gets a little bit left.
It's quite interesting, because I also see this play out in a money mindset way. Sometimes people are scared to hit go on an invoice. And this is where it's hard to do business linear, right? And this is why we're all about business as an ecosystem, because it's a really important part of your customer journey to get really clear on when do you actually exchange the product or service for the money. Is it part payment? Is it beforehand? And so, yes, it's pricing strategy and it's financial, but it's also part of your customer journey and knowing what fits with your product and service and business model.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that, how much it fits in with your money mindset, I love paying bills. That's one of my joys. Love comes to the 20th and I can pay all these bills. Makes me feel good. Come to invoicing time, I actually feel sick. And yet, why should I? I've done the work. That person's expecting an invoice, and yet I hover over the send button, and that's part of my money mindset. And I'm sure, Alana, you're quite the opposite.
Oh, no, it's interesting, because I'll procrastinate about doing an invoice because my natural positivity, right? And this is where you've got mindset and then you've got personality. My natural mindset is I'm so positive, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get to that. The money will come. It'll be fine. I'll go do this thing over here.
Oh, that's true. Or it'll just come from the sky. It'll just come from the sky.
Yeah. The unicorn will bring it in the post.
They'll know to pay me.
Yeah.
And Alana, you came up with a good idea too. If you can have some payment incentives, if you're doing some of those larger project type work, as in payment up front, seems to be that some industries just don't hesitate with that. Don't even think about getting a website unless you've paid your 50% deposit up front. Your lawyers, I think, might be the same. There are certain industries out there.
Interesting, because there's some industries, like we've worked with some clients, and I'm like, you should totally be charging in advance, because you've got to dip into your pocket first. And if I was the customer, I'd be expecting to pay. So yeah, that's probably sorry, it's probably not so applicable to you, but for those on replay, it might be. So yeah.
But this is also where you see that things like a subscription model are so beautiful. Because you're getting that regular payment without having to invoice out regularly. So once again, that really comes into more of what we discuss around 1, business model, and 2, pricing strategy. Because if you can kind of get that taken care of, that really helps with your cash flow. The more money you can get up front. The other thing is with people paying on the 20th of the month following. Oh my God, who ever thought of that? Because that is what makes life so hard. so hard for small businesses.
Some dare I say, man in a suit in a corner office in the 1970s thought that was a good idea, and the rest of the world, we're still waiting to catch up.
Yeah, and it is particularly prevalent with big corporates, and they'll be being supplied by small businesses, and yet they boldly, this big corporate, they've got so much money in the bank, and they'll say, I'm not paying till 20th of the month following. Or from what I have heard, some businesses like Fonterra, a couple of months later, that they're actually paying their suppliers, and that just hurts so bad. There was going to be a government initiative, by the way, just passing, that any corporates had to pay on 7-day invoicing, which it would just change the landscape.
It would totally change that. But anyway, that's a whole nother. We'll rabbit on about that another day.
Yeah. And I think we're coming close to the end anyway. What have we got?
Yeah. So have you got any questions about that, Sarita?
No, that was brilliant. Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm keen to have a little tutu with the forecasting tool.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll really love it. So let me just give you a bit of a highlight of what's next from here. So as I mentioned, this is part 2 of 4 parts this spring. We do a big part of how we're wired at Your Success Team is there's so much business knowledge that's trapped behind paywalls, and so we're all about making our knowledge as accessible and practical as possible. So we'll always have free workshops, and our newsletters are packed with tips and tricks. And so if that's as far as you want to go with us, thank you so much. We're delighted, and we just really hope that this is really helpful for you. But if you would like to come further in and work with us, there is so much goodness when you're paying to work with us, and it only gets better as you keep going in. So for those of you here, your 2 natural probably progressions from here would either be into the Success Circle or the Success Squad, and they are we're going to cover really similar content in them, but they're designed to take you on a very different pathway as to how you like to learn. So the Success Circle is it's group-based, it's very community-oriented, and it's very step-by-step skill building. So it's a resource a month, and then we add to it. We have a bit of a group coaching every month around it, so you feel really empowered, and then we come back, in another month to lay on the next level of skill. On top of that, you get a weekly co-working session for some accountability to kickstart your Monday, some communication channels, and we have a fortnightly come and ask us anything that we invite group experts along to. So there's a whole lot of goodness in that. We've got 2 options for payment there. One is $100 monthly, cancel at any time, no pressure. Or the other is you can pay, get a nice wee discount to do it annually, and Robin or I will throw you in a complimentary one-on-one coaching session, so you can just get really clear to make the most of it. Or if you want to go in boots and all and really have espresso for your business, we've designed the Success Squad, and it's a group-based program, so you're learning as a cohort, because there's so much beauty and power in finding your people, because when you're in business it can be quite lonely, and it can be quite hard to find other people who are in the same place as you are. So it's group-based, typically 8 to 10 people in any one squad. So you get to know each other and your businesses, and you can really share and swap ideas, and that's the power of the hive mind. And what we do is it's intense. So it's 8 weeks, it's 2 hours every week. It's like, oh, we're just going to jam your brain. And we cover everything. So we go really big picture to start with. So you're really clear on your why, your purpose, your vision, your strategy, because that helps you understand the rest of your decisions that you're going to make. Then we go through your financials, getting really clear on that, your customer journey, so that you can make really informed decisions about your sales and marketing. And then what we do is we put a lovely bow wrapper around it, which is, how on earth are you going to go and get this shit done? Because it's one thing to have learned it, it's quite another to have the reflection in the space to actually practically put it into practice. So that's the squad. It's amazing. We love it. And then once you've done 8 weeks, you come back every month. And so that's where you you're not left out on your lonesome. Like yesterday we were reviewing with our autumn squad, we were reviewing their 90-day plans all together, and kind of like coming back and chewing the fat and swapping stories and stuff. That one includes a 2-to-1 coaching session, so you get both of us, and you can do that at any time in the 12 months. And your payment options are either 3 payments over 3 months, that's $4,500, or a lump sum of $4,000. And then we've got the boss program. That's less appropriate probably for those of you here, that's for people with a team. So yeah, if you want to know more, you'll get some info that comes out in email, or just reach out and let me know. And let's leave you in parting with a lovely.
Oh, can I just say that the Success
yes.
Circle, the refer a friend.
Oh, right,
The
yes.
Success Circle, and that gives a 50% discount on the Success Circle. So it actually brings it down to $50 a month, which is extremely affordable. And we've done that.
So if you want to
because,
come bring a buddy, then it's half off.
Yeah.
So.
And also, if you don't have a buddy, we'll find you one.
Yeah. So it's half off for you and a friend. It's like the Hello Fresh, but for business. And so because it's often either a Maya Angelou quote or a Simon Sinek quote to finish with us. So you can only become truly accomplished at something you love. Don't make money your goal. Instead, pursue the things you love doing, and then do them so well that people can't take their eyes off you. So go out and be awesome. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.